Hola, buenos días a todos. Me llamo Audrey and I blog at Españolita sobre la marcha, where I write about intentional parenting and raising a bilingual child. Today, I'm excited to be participating in this vlogging chain with other like-minded bloggers through multicultural kid blogs. Today, the question that I'll be answering comes from Michelle Hammond at mothertongues.com. Her question for me is, have I ever experienced a time when I was frustrated and wanted to give up on multilingualism? And if so, how did I overcome my frustration? Well, first, Michelle, I want to thank you very much for being willing to bring up the challenges that bilingual parenting brings, because there certainly are many, and I think it's important that we talk about them as parents so that we can encourage and support each other. So today I'd like to share with you what came to my mind when I read Michelle's question. So here's my story. My husband, who's a native of Spain, and I are raising our 19-month-old daughter in Spanish. The only catch is I'm not a native speaker of Spanish. Although I do consider myself a bilingual, it is not my native tongue. My native tongue is English. I started studying Spanish when I was about 12 in school, and I immediately fell in love with it. And although I am a bilingual, I still feel like I'm parenting with my left hand, so to speak. However, I've chosen to speak exclusively to my daughter in Spanish because, first of all, for the past 12 years of my marriage, Spanish has been the official language of our relationship. So speaking to my daughter in Spanish was a natural extension of that. And second, and most importantly, I believe, based on the research, that speaking Spanish at home, the two of us with our daughter, is the best way for her to become a balanced bilingual someday. Now, that is not to say that my love for Spanish and my commitment to bilingualism don't make parenting in my second language any easier. From day one, the day my daughter was born, I have had to essentially teach myself the language of mothering in another language. That means learning the Spanish terms to talk about labor and birth and delivery and diapering and discipline, terms of endearment, nursery rhymes, commands, the list goes on. And in fact, there are many days when at night I am mentally exhausted and all I want to do is curl up in bed with a book in English, or I just go around talking out loud to myself in English as I do the dishes, the laundry, and clean up the house as a way to mentally decompress. You see, before I had my daughter, I was speaking English most of the day because I was an ESL teacher. So switching to speaking Spanish most of the day with someone else was a big shift for me, and it's been challenging. The times when I most want to give up speaking in Spanish to my daughter are the days when I'm mentally tired, or, for example, when I'm at the library and I see a children's book in English that brings back memories of my own childhood, brings back nostalgia, and I wish I could read that to my daughter too. Or when I experience strong emotions like anger or deep love, and the words that first come to my mind are English, and I want to say those to my daughter, but I hold back. But I think my biggest times of frustration and wanting to give up on multilingualism are when I start to think about the future 5 or 10 years from now, when my daughter gets older, and my language will have to get more complicated, more intense, and talk about deeper, more difficult topics, when she'll be talking back to me in Spanish. So those are the times when I want to give up on raising my daughter bilingually. Michelle's follow-up question for me was, how do I deal with that frustration, and how do I overcome wanting to give up? I think that's a great follow-up question. First, like any other emotion, I validate and acknowledge my feelings of tiredness and frustration instead of bottling them up and ignoring them. Second, I remind myself of the big picture and the long-term goals that I have for my daughter, and remind myself that those are goals worth fighting for and worth making sacrifices for. Third, I give thanks for my husband and his support in our bilingual parenting journey. And I renew my commitment to providing my daughter with other sources of input in Spanish, like native Spanish-speaking friends and neighbors and relatives through FaceTime and Skype conversations. Finally, I cut myself some slack and assure myself that no parenting endeavor is easy. Parenting is hard whether you do it bilingually, monolingually, trilingually, and no parent is perfect. And the decisions that we make today are not set in stone, and they don't have to be the decisions that we stick with in 5 or 10 years. So, in other words, if I need to revisit and revise my current language policy in a decade from now, that's okay. I'll just take it one day at a time, which is the mantra of my blog, sobre la marcha. Just take it as it comes. Well, thank you everybody for watching this video. I hope that you have found some encouragement in my answers to Michelle's questions today. If you are interested in following along in my parenting adventures, please stop by the blog where I write about slow, simple, intentional parenting and raising a bilingual child. I'd love to have you follow along. My question for the next blogger is, what advice would you give to expectant or brand new parents who are considering raising their child in more than one language? And that question goes to the blogger Natasha Alexandrov, who writes at Russian Step by Step for Children. So be sure to check out her video as well. Muchas gracias amigos, muchas gracias por ver este video y por acompañarme en esta aventura lingüística. Que tengáis todos un día estupendo. Adiós, hasta pronto. Chao.